Greetings YouTube, Alan Liu back with another video. I haven't really made a video in a while, but whenever one of my friends or someone I know does well or wins something, I bring them on the channel. So please welcome Carlos Samaniego, a good friend from NorCal. He recently won his local RTN with a Katsu build with Lynx. And I think a lot of people have been talking about the Lynx stuff recently, but why don't you give us the rundown of why Lynx?
Yeah, Lynx is really powerful. I wasn't sold on it. Well, as you know, Alan, I went to Florida. We're in California, but I went to Florida for a holiday break, played with locals, and one of the locals there was like an on and off Katsu player. He got back on Katsu and he's like, "Oh, why don't we just run Lynx?" And he'd also played a lot of Fi. So I'm like, "Oh, I just think Mask is better, et cetera, et cetera. Momentum's better, whatever, whatever." And we played games, and I'm like, damn, you can just get like double, triple bonds just a bit quicker than me. And in general, it just seemed like it was a bit more powerful and just had bigger, faster turns. And I kept, and after that whole armory and like where we just played like 3 games, I was just thinking like it makes sense. Like I don't always get mask momentum value every turn in terms of just like getting the draws. Obviously, there's like inherent value with like getting your opponents to block around mask of momentum. But a lot of the time, good opponents will like play around it anyways really well and still provide like efficient damage. And also it's also Lynx is super powerful, just providing that huge turn where you drop him down to 10, and then at that point, your opponent is kind of like deadlocked with Kodachis. And yeah, so that's kind of like the reason why Lynx is a bit more popular now, especially with the release of like heavy hitters with tenacity. I think Lynx is very strong at the moment.
Yeah.
I feel like what they did, it was like they made Victor in testing, and they're like, we need to give Ninja something to like help overcome like the efficient blocking, and they made tenacity, so which is much needed.
Yeah, so I feel like back then, people debated over whether or not you ran like Mask of Momentum, at least on Fi or Lynx, if you're playing into like Briar, for example, or if you're playing into another ninja, for example. But I guess, with the meta trending towards like a lot of 3-block decks with a lot of armor, Mask of Momentum kind of loses that value. So Lynx is just like, guaranteed 6, 7, maybe 8 points just on board. So yeah, let's talk about the new matchups though. So going into the new format, I don't think anyone particularly thought these matchups were great for either ninja. KO, some people argued that KO could just, outvalue, like just block okay, has better armor, and outputs just as much damage as ninja. Kasai, Valiant Dynamo can be really difficult for Kodachi. Once again, that's another reason why Lynx is in, because you're never getting mask with against Kasai, right? And then Victor, can you even get over that wall with ninja? So why don't you run through each of these 3 matchups and how you feel about them so far?
Yeah, I'll start with the easiest of the 3. I think Kasai has been pretty manageable. I think Tenacity just comes in super well because they're blocking with Dynamos a lot, so that's like a guaranteed a buff on the Tenacity. I found situations where just having a Bonds loop turn, or just like a Art of Ward Bonds turn where you're providing like a active Dishonor, and before like you present the Dishonor, you Lynx Bonds. You like on Bonds hit, you Lynx for Tenacity. So that's another 2 cards that you're ripping out of the Kasai's hand to block Dishonor, then buff Tenacity. Usually it's pretty backbreaking in terms of just like getting that life total down. I found that like it's more so just getting some graveyard fill early in the game, uh, being rather offensive, and then also if you have a bad hand, I also cite in Warmongers in the Kasai matchup because it prevents them from playing out their Spoils of War turns, their Outland Skirmish turns. And also, key thing in that matchup is to block on those Spoils of War turns.
Yeah.
Because if they get 4 copper and they have blood in their hands, or they draw that up soon after, it's a pretty big shift in tempo. But yeah, tenacity has. Without tenacity, I would be sweating a lot harder with Kasai, but at the moment, I feel fine with it. Going to KO, sorry.
KO.
People don't like it when I say KO. Yeah, going to KO. KO is so tough. I've sided in the Flick Blacks and the CNCs just to be a bit disruptive or just kind of like fill up the grave, being a bit mid-rangey. The Flicks definitely help a lot. At some point, I was talking to you, Alan, and like other people in our group. Oh, should I put in like 2 yellow Flick Blacks? See if we can just get more value while we set up graveyard and just wait for a big turn. But the matchup is very fluid because KO has flesh bag, so they can just flesh bag you on a turn they think that you're popping off. So a lot of the time I'm trying to bait the flesh bag block so I can get it out of the way, so then I can have a pop off turn afterwards to then get them down to like single digits. But yeah, usually I think it's unfavored. It's weird because it's like the opposite of the Bravo Dromai players in that matchup, where like the Bravos think they're like favored and the Dromai players think they're favored.
It's a 90-90
Whereas,
matchup.
yeah, this matchup is like the Katsu players don't feel like always favored, like it's not favored, and then the Kyle players don't feel that they're favored, but I think they are. So it's kind of strange because, yeah, they just have good armor. Fleshbag, if they didn't have Fleshbag, I'd be a lot less nervous when I would be if I faced one. But Fleshbag is annoying, and I have to bait it out. And the more disciplined the KO is, or like conservative they are with their Fleshbag use, the harder it is. Yeah, that's kind of my opinion on it. And then Victor, I think, is the hardest one of the three. It's not like Bravo where like he can like if you get 2 cards out of him, it's pretty good. Whereas Victor can like block with 2 cards and still like attack with an efficient 3-card hand.
Yeah.
And so the efficient damage, efficient blocking, the armor, and somewhat disruptive on hits like spinal, choke slam, debilitate. And then like once they get into a low enough threshold, those Golden Suns and sometimes the Primes of Fights are just really backbreaking and just putting the back end. And also like Righteous Cleansing can be really annoying just so that they can like kind of like banish key cards that are coming up.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think Victor's now like a complete lost cause, like how it felt with Oldham, but you do need to get through their blocks, have that tenacity turn to just really turn the tide. You just need like one big turn.
Makes sense.
But yeah, those are those matchups for me, at least at the moment.
So basically, you're saying you're not great into any of them.
I think I'm favored for Kasai. Kasai has a mid-rangey problem where like she can provide efficient blocking while providing good damage, but once you kind of like combo off, she can't really do much about it. So you have to just break that wall.
Yeah.
Whereas Victor is like a lot harder. He has more armor, and you can just block way better. And then KO is just like
just
like well-timed blocks are like pivotal for them. Yeah.
So yeah, let's move on and talk about some of the new stuff. So we talked about Tenacity a lot already. Great card. You're running 2, 1 in sideboard. I assume this is for longer matchups, I want to say.
Yeah. For like, Victor, Kasai, anyone who I expect to be blocking a lot, or like I just want an extra copy of Tenacity where it just I don't feel sweating. I don't have to like sweat about having to like pitch or like kind of stow away the Tenacity for later on a turn where I have a blue already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ancestral Harmony.
Yeah.
This card was spoiled. What were your thoughts? Actually, no. Let's rewind. What were your thoughts when the card was spoiled, and how do you feel about it now? Because it's in the deck.
Yeah, it was okay. Like I thought, like, oh, that's kind of cute, you know. Oh, like it's okay. Like I was not like in complete awe, but I wasn't like oh, like it's not useless at all. But like what kind of like bothered me? Well, it didn't really bother me. It was just like everyone was just like, oh, it's like a mini Art of War. It's an Art of War at home. Oh, like oh, if you banish the top and it's combo, like it's great. All these are fair points, right? But like, I just felt like it was a bit overblown. It's a good card. I think it has niches where if you already have a card, you can Katsu out and you can play this, then it's good there. Like if you have 100 wins, 2 blues, and Harmony, or something like that, you can play out the Harmony, play out the 100 wins if it hits. You can Katsu it out and do other things. But and also like if you have the natural line, like if you already have a Surging Bonds, Ascendant, Whelming, and you don't need the Katsu trigger at all, you can just play it out and
Maybe
go from there. Maybe you hit, and then probably that turn you're probably gonna break Breeze Riders to make that comboed card worth it. Unless it already has gold again, then you probably can work it in there. But yeah, I only run 2. I feel like 3's a bit much. I feel like 4 Ancestral Harmony, I was on like 15 blues. Now I'm like trending to 18, I think.
Yeah.
With Bonds of Ancestry. Yeah, so
Fluster.
yeah, the Flusters.
What was in before Ancestral
Also
Harmony?
another
like what was
nothing.
the blue? What was the blue? Oh, it was
what did I take out for Ancestral Harmony?
Yeah,
I took
if
out
this was
2
a blue
snatch.
Oh, okay.
2 snatches and
maybe,
yeah, 2 snatches.
Maybe there's blue flick flack back in the day or something. I don't know.
No
blue
flick
flick.
Okay. Yeah, 2 snatches. Yeah, sounds about right. And then I had a cheeky blue hurl instead of the tenacity.
Blue hurl.
That was yeah. Yeah. Also, another thing we could talk about here is the Lord of Wind with Genshi line.
Oh yeah,
some people don't run it. Yeah. Yeah, so I guess we can go to that next. I just love this Lord of Wind Genshi line. I think it catches some people off guard. Sometimes the opportunity presents itself where you bonds, you get whelming, and at that point they have blocked enough earlier in the turn where you get whelming and you already have a Megenshi in your hand, and you can just Breeze Rider to Megenshi, and then just go 5 triple 2s, or you can pitch 1 or 2 in to the first Lord of Wind to get targets back. It just essentially punishes early heavy blocks if you have the card in hand, or you can Katsu it out. Or I run 2 because if it's engraved, then you can pop it out of bonds, and if you have the whelming in hand, you can just play whelming, then Megenshi. It's just like a 1 for 11, 1 for 12 if you like pitch into like one of the first Lord of Winds. So it can really punish heavy blocking. And there have been moments, at least with Lynx in my like testing, where like I did a full active Descendant Dishonor line, and then after I like whelminged into Megenshi, so I did both lines in one turn. So that was pretty crazy. I think the card is still relevant. I wouldn't say it's like for fatigue, like you always want to bring it all back, like have like 6 targets and play it all out.
Yeah.
But it's enough to like keep it where the opponent blocks heavy in the beginning, you whelming and Genshi them, and you just get like 11. You know, the whelming and this to be like 1 for 11 is pretty backbreaking, or should put you in a position where you can just Kodachi lock your opponent. So it is clunky in hand at sometimes, but when it comes in clutch, it comes in clutch for me.
Yeah, it's definitely awkward because like 1, it's yellow. 2, it costs 1, so you can't even like pitch it to Kodachis.
Yeah.
But like, you know, most of the times you're not even really looking to double Kodachi most turns anyways. You're just trying to like surging or do some other shenanigans. So it's mostly okay.
Yeah, like this is like a aggro version of Katsu when it's ready. Like you don't always want to be Kodachi threat, because that without momentum that line is not as potent, or it doesn't demand as much respect. Whereas that's why you also have Lantern, right? Against like Kano, if you're doing Kodachi something, you're not putting enough pressure on the Kano to win. But yeah, no, it pitches for surging. You can, you know, block it and then have it for a bonds option later. E-strike. Yeah, it serves a role, but it's not a card I always want to see. But in hands where I can like make it work, it's really powerful.
Yeah, and it's a throwback. It's an alpha card.
Yeah. Yeah.
Same with Lord of Wind. So let's move on. What else? We talked about Harmony. Art of War. I mean, some Katsus are on Art of War, some aren't. I would say more are than aren't, but
it's. I was on the no Art of War camp for a long time. Um, and and you can see like the Katsu community is a bit, divided on it. I will say, ever since I started using it, like back in late December, I just found that it helps pop off turns happen more often. It also makes Be Like Water way more smooth and effective because you like Be Like Water. If they just block perfect, you Art of War, pitching a blue, and that second resource goes into paying for the naming Be Like Water, whatever surging strike, and then your turn just feels a lot more smoother. Whereas if you Ancestral Empowerment for the Be Like Water, you still have to give a card to pay for it.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I just found that Art of War just made Be Like Water a lot more powerful.
Yeah, that makes
And
sense.
yeah, it's bursty turns too. Like sometimes I would draw into like the second bonds or the second descendant I needed, and then I could make triple bonds happen. And or I get that Megenchi line off, and it's like coming in for 6, and they perfect block, and then I breaking scales them, and then or to win for 3/3/3. It has its moments for sure, and sometimes it's kind of clunky. But when it works, it works. Yeah, that's why I put it down to 3 because I hate playing it and then drawing a second Art of War, especially when I don't have the pitch to play it out. If it's on the Be Like Water and I have that extra 1 pitch, then it's good. But like when you're paying for surging with the blue and then you Art of War on top of it and you draw another Art of War, it feels kind of bad or it
Yeah.
feels way more clunky. But it could be you could be in a position where like you already have the bonds and the gust wave to go along, and you can arsenal the Art of War. But sometimes it doesn't work out that way.
Yeah.
So it depends.
And drawing into like a 0 cost is pretty important for if you ever want to like Katsu trigger to fix whatever hand you randomly draw into. So that makes sense.
Yeah, I think also like some people use it where like they see it and they automatically want to try to make it work, and then you force it to work, and that may not be the most effective line. Like sometimes the correct decision is to pitch Art to pay for surging strike, and to go about your turn. Or like you can pop out. It's like early game, you draw it, and you already have a surging strike, and you don't have like the graveyard fill. It's perfectly reasonable to like just pitch it for something else, or E-strike, block a little bit, set up graveyard, Art of War, bottom it, and save it for a bit later when you're a bit more set up. But it's not a card you always want to force all the time.
Yeah, makes sense. Let's talk about this one lonely Sink Below. Sink Below is like 3 of in like every single deck, but you only have 1, and you like Flick Flack better. So
I like Flick Flack better. Yeah, I only have 1. It used to be 2. I put in the second Tenacity for this. I only use this for like Bravo, just matchups where I'm blocking good amounts, or they're gonna be providing constant on hit effects, like Azalea, Bravo.
Azuri.
I'm still testing. Yeah. Oh, I actually don't even play. Sorry, I don't even play D-Reaction against Azuri anymore. I just go full. I think Tenacity just helps me get there
full
a bit better.
Bunga.
Yeah, but before that, I did put Sinks into Azuri just to fix potentially clunky hands. Yeah. So this card isn't like absolutely. I think also people like Reinforced Line a lot, and I can see where that comes from. For me, like matches where Azalea where you're blocking a lot. Sometimes you have that like magic hand where like you can already do everything you need to do, and you're okay with just blocking one card. And if that one card was
Reinforce
the line, you would have to give them 2 cards to even make it impactful in the first place.
Yeah.
So those are moments where like I just find it clunky, or a little bit more clunky. Whereas Sink Below just has a bit more utility. Obviously, it doesn't go around dominate from if you don't have it in arsenal like Reinforced Line does, but that's been fine for me. At the end of the day, it's like a style preference, just like a personal preference, to be honest.
Yeah, it's interesting because like if I look back on some of the successful Worlds Katsu lists, a lot of them were like 3 Sink, 3 Reinforce or something, or 3 Sink, 3 Flick Flack, or there was that one list I think that was on stream which was like 3 Sink, 3 Flick Flack, 3 Fate, 3 Oasis or something, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people, or at least going into this season, And a lot of people, I mean, rightfully so, were like down on Ninja, right? Because like if everyone's like doing this like mid-rangey thing, new decks are coming out that are doing it better. But in my mind, it was like, okay, if that happens, then what Ninja needs to do is to just go back to being as fast as possible. Because back then you couldn't be as fast as possible because there was Icelander, there was Bravo, there was Azalea, there was Lexi. But now there's really only Bravo and Azalea. And they make up a good portion of the meta, but maybe not as much. So against like even a KO, if he's throwing 14 and you're throwing 12 every turn, you might be losing the first 3 or 4 turns of the game. But then that one turn, if you can do 30, it doesn't matter that he was like more efficient throughout the game if you're going to kill him, right? So
exactly,
that's what I was feeling, and it does seem like that's what your list was trending towards, like, you know, less D-reacts, you know, more tenacity, more damage, more good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Go on.
Any thoughts on that? That was it for me.
Yeah, no, it's true. Like even with Azalea, I think Lynx is a bit more of improvement because they're just like locking you into like on-hit effects, where you only need just one turn to present like 25 plus, 30 plus to like just, you know, put them down single digits, and then they're just susceptible to Kodachi lock. Yeah, that's kind of like the purpose of this list, essentially.
Yeah. On that note, so you like Lynx into the slow matchups. You like them into the racy matchups. You like them into Azalea. So when do you ever play Mask of Momentum? Let's talk about that.
Yeah, I'm like slowly trending off of Mask. So before this weekend, Mask of Momentum was only used for Bravo, mainly just to demand respect when I can like Kodachi spinning, or you know, I just have like just always throwing that on hit, or like Kodachi Descendant, and then they're like, oh, if you draw and you draw 0, you can get bonds. But I can see the case where you run Lynx just so that you can just have one huge pop-off turn and just kind of put them in the grave afterwards. Another matchup is Dawnblade Dory, another matchup that demands respect, or at least if they give you a card, it's easier to kind of like pinpoint what their turn is going to be, or like what possible reactions they might have.
Yeah.
But honestly, with the amount of variance that Dory has, like Decimator, Axes, Lynx is just better into those two, so it's probably better just to hedge your bets and play Lynx and against Dory at all times. Because even with Lynx, you can just have a big Bonds loop turn, and then at the end, Dishonor so that it can't swing twice. And then at that point, they're probably already in like Kodachi lock range. So that's kind of another matchup where I kind of see Momentum losing its value. And the last matchup I was playing it in was Dromai. But after this weekend, I might drop it for Lynx because Dromais are in the mindset of when they're playing against Katsu, like, oh, I'm not going to flood the board with the dragons so that they can't farm it. And that's kind of what happened this weekend when I played a Dromai. They made like 2 dragons the whole game. And at the end, I played them again in top 8. And I used Lynx, and it was pretty comfortably, overwhelmingly a win. So yeah, I could see it being phased out, but I can also understand older Katsu players who just, you know, love Mask of Momentum. I love Mask of Momentum too.
The card's iconic. The art is great.
Yeah, but like I got sold when I can make like what can I do, a live Dishonor turn and a Whelming Magenchi turn right after with Lynx. Yeah. I don't know. It like gives me that itch, that combo itch that I like.
Yeah, I mean,
you know me.
Yeah. 6 card hand is pretty good.
Yeah, you know me as like a Kano, Rhinar Enjoyer as well. So like those big turns is what I live for.
Yeah, you should try Flood of Force sometime. No, I'm kidding.
Oh yeah.
But so wait, yeah, no, the Flood of Force would be hilarious. But yeah,
Flood of Force. It could be harmony list right there. Harmony list idea.
No. When the card came out, I was like, oh, this would be so great in my wetsuit deck. But anyways, another thing, this kind of reiterates my thought of where it's like Mask of Momentum. When you run that card, you're kind of like agreeing to play slower and play more mid-rangey. Like versus Bravo, Phi will run Mask of Momentum and run, you know, triple sync, 3 reinforce. And if Bravo's not pushing big dominate, then his rate is usually lower than a ninja's, and so Katsu can effectively play that same style too. But since you only have 1 sync and 3 flick flack, it almost feels like those are just kind of like your, if it lines up perfectly, it lines up, but you're still probably better off committing to your game plan of Lynx. Because
Yeah, I'm
if you slow the
still
game
testing
down,
it.
if you
Yeah,
slow
yeah.
the game down too much, it can get a little dicey. But the one again, the other player can never really know what you're on unless it's like top 8 of a big calling or a pro tour, because you'll play 1 sync and the game will progress, and they're like, where are his other 2 syncs? And they might play around it, but you only have 1. So
Yeah, I think it's pretty weird because good players would know how to play against momentum very efficiently. So like it almost feels like, oh, I high rolled you, and then the mask of momentum trigger is just a matter of me just winning more because I just had the natty or whatever.
yeah,
Whereas Lynx is like it has like, oh, if I ever hit, I could potentially pop off, and you can't avoid it at some point.
yeah.
That's kind of like the sense I have with Lynx at the moment. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Let's move on to the tourney report. I guess we can briefly go over the deck itself too, but other than the ones I pointed out, everything is mostly standard. You have 1 razor instead of a 3rd
Yeah.
spinning wheel kick. That's nice and cute. Blue bonds, of course, is a Lynx target.
Yeah, lately my Lynx targets have been like Tenacity or like Yellow Descendants.
Yellow
Because Yellow
descent.
Descendants, it just comes in for 4. And usually it's the case where I already have like a bond set up and I have another bonds engraved, so I can just get bonds, whelming bonds, dishonor. Um, yeah,
My brain's
and
just trying to
then
keep up.
yeah,
No,
and
but I
then
know what you
like
mean. Yeah.
yeah, so like I've already have like 2 bonds in the works already. Then Descendants just more damage.
Yeah.
And then Spinning Wheel Kick, I used to be on 3, but it's not a card I always want to see. It's good for like Katsu trigger bait. If I know my opponent is blocking pretty heavily,
Mm-hmm.
especially on the Surgings, Whelmings, and let's say I have Surging in my arsenal, I have a Whelming, a blue, a 0, and then I have Spinning, I can pitch blue for Spinning. They're like, oh, thank God it's not a Surging, thank God it's not a Descendant, I won't block it. They don't block it. I Katsu trigger for bonds, and then I already have the Surging Whelming bonds to fluster Dishonor. So it's kind of like that bait card
Mm-hmm.
that I like. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. Anything else? Ancestral standard. Be like water, of course. Some
Yeah.
people run yellow gust waves. You're not. I mean, the yellows are pretty tight now with Art of War,
Yeah.
Tenacity, Mugenshi.
I was remembered about like Yellow Whelming being a good Lynx target, but I think Tenacity and Descendant are just far superior.
Yeah.
Yeah, like if you get Whelming Yellow, you can bait more blocks, but that's if you have the Tenacity already in hand. So I feel like just Tenacity and Descendant and then Blue Bonds are just like the go-tos. Very rarely I get Dishonor from Lynx.
Mm-hmm.
That's if like already have the Whelmings and the Bonds in hand, and I just need to get that finisher that my opponent will respect. Yeah, those
Yeah.
are like the premium targets. So that's why I kind of like phased out the Yellow Whelming
Makes
from
sense.
the list.
Sideboard we kind of touched on. Warmongers you bring in for
Yeah, I
Azalea,
bring in for Azalea,
Kasai,
Kasai, Bis,
the Rune Blades.
Riptide, Rune
Riptide.
Blades. Yeah.
I
Yeah,
mean, I guess. Why
yeah.
not?
If I go far, yeah, Bolton. Yeah, it's like a why not card in Riptide. Like sometimes they just pump too much, and I'm like, okay, you need to relax.
Mm-hmm.
I like 100 win, Kadachi, 100 wins, Warmongers, just like quell them a little bit. But yeah, it's a fine card to have in that matchup. What other hero do I play that against? Yeah, I have like a little bit of a sideboard guide here, but feel free to change it. Funny
You should be fine.
enough,
Oh,
yeah,
do you have
yeah.
a sideboard guide in here? Wow, you do.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Alan
yeah.
Loop viewers
It's a
rejoicing
bit
because there's a
it's a
sideboard
bit
guide in
rough.
his
So
video.
like, please change to your liking. It's not like set in stone. It's always very fluid.
Here.
Yeah,
Sideboard guide not perfect.
yeah,
All
yeah,
right.
yeah. Feel free to change that. This is my rough way to do my sideboards.
Let's move on to the nice little turning report. We can just go through these pretty quickly, but just so people have an idea.
Yeah.
The haters will be like, "Oh my god, a Katsu one? I bet he only played Drome Eyes."
No, 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 no. Round 1 was KO. it was interesting. I won the coin flip. I went second. He had a clunky first hand. I think either his turn 0, I think he blood rushed or something, or his turn 1 he blood rushed. And then he pitched a cast bones to blood rush, discarded a blue, kept a red in his hand, drew 2 more reds. So he had a three-hand red. And
So you're
he
telling me he didn't cast bones on turn 1?
Yeah, I think it was not his turn 0, but his turn 1.
Oh, it's his second turn.
Yeah, his second turn.
Okay,
Sorry.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I was gonna go a little crazy.
Yeah. My memory is getting fading. But
basically,
he pitched cast bones. He stumbled, and he had to pop cross trap to like do mandible to like not bare fangs for like 10. Or I think he even missed that one. He like drew and discarded like a blood rush or something. So he was like kind of tilted in the beginning. And then I just had timely flick flacks. At some point, I hard cross jab surging. I baited out the surge. I baited out the flesh bag, and then later on, I just like kept going, and I ended up winning. He misblocked the descendant, thinking it was 4 at some points, and that helped me just get more value from bonds to Dishonor or Fluster or whatever.
Nice.
And then I had a big turn that just kind of put him on the back foot. So that was the first one. And then the second round was Kasai. I played pretty aggressively. I played this Kasai before, so I told him like first time we played, he was on Crown of Providence, and I'm like, yeah, you probably want to run Bounce because I run Art of War or the Omega High Roll of Double Ancestral, and so he did. He made good adjustments, so the game was closer. But at some point, I had like an Art of War turn with Bonds. He blocked pretty aggressively with armor as well on that turn. He was saving his armor a lot besides dynamos. And then that turn he blocked a lot, and then I like Dishonor for 5. He blocked, and then before that I had Lynx for tenacity. So he was just in the back foot at the end of that turn. Yeah, so that was a win. And then third game I played a Dory.
Ooh.
Dawnblade Dory, and I went Lynx because I just didn't know at the time. But yeah, the game was I gave good pressure. I was kind of playing a bit mid-rangey in the beginning, just getting things in graveyard, E-Spec for 7, Kadachi something, and then at some point I arsenaled the Flick Flack pretty early, and at one turn I did 8 damage to him. I blocked like the second swing earlier, did like 8 damage, and he didn't like block anything. I'm like, huh. And then he had an Iron Song Determination glistening turn, and I'm like, and I had a Flick Flack in Arsenal at the time, and I'm like, okay, block 3, and then he's like Iron Song, and then I'm like Flick Flack, and then he passed, and he was kind of sad.
Oh,
and then,
no.
Yeah, so like it was one of those.
The aggressive line. You just had it. You just had it.
Yeah. And so after that, like turn or 2 later, I like popped off with like a Bonds to Dishonor to Lynx to Tenacity, and that brought him down to 10. And then I did a really interesting line. I think my hand was something like blue. I had an arsenal like a Art of War at some point. My hand was like blue, Migenshi, and I'm like, what the heck do I do here? So I did like pitch blue for Art of War, go again, banish. I banished a Migenshi. I drew like a blue and a red, and then I'm like, okay, Migenshi go again, 4, and he took it. And at this moment in time, I had like 4 targets in grave, and so I Katsu'd for Lord of Wind, played Lord of Wind for like 6, and then he was just like in the back foot. I got like 2 surgings and a red whelming back, and and then I just Kadachi locked him for the win.
Off to a hot start.
And then the faded
Dromai?
The faded matchup against Victor. In this case, Patrick, our friend, only run very noob. I was just like, no, I don't want to play this. He's such a good player too. So like, I was just trying to I think I'm sideboarding correctly with him. I'm like going like a 65 pile, CNCs, flick flack sinks. But I think I just need to go lean, full aggressive, because it wasn't working before. But I just perhaps need to try it again. But yeah, he ended up winning pretty comfortably, just winning his clashes pretty convincingly. If he like revealed a test of strength on top, he just break one of his gold and just re-clash and win. So it's pretty tough matchup. But yeah, so that kind of went how it went. Round 5, I played Dromai. He was a little new against the Katsu matchup, but he was a strong player though. He played like an aggro Dromai variant. He made like 2 dragons that whole game. He was just presenting good damage, and then I think turn 2, turn 3, he like nourishinged me with like the on hit active, and I couldn't block it out. And so he had a 5-card hand. I pushed to get get a lot of the cards out of his hand after that, but I think my combo turn came in too late, and I was already at like low life. Game ended like 1-1, and then I was about to be on Kodachi lock, but he was able to get out of Kylori and to burn them all and then kill me before I could Kodachi lock him. And I probably played the game a bit too greedy, but yeah. So I was like a little nervous. I was 3-2. I won the first 3, and I lost against like the first, second seed being Patrick, and then the Dromai, he only lost once. So like breakers were there, and then I made it to 6th place. I played the Dromai again. Yeah,
Same
played the Dromai again, the same Dromai. And I even asked in the chat, like, "Gosh, should I go Lynx?"
I remember I saw your message, and I was like,
I
don't know how the game went, and so
yeah. So like I was like, yeah. So I just full sent Lynx. Yeah, the game I had I had more powerful hands lined up than last game. And at some point I had an Art of War turn off of the Descendants, and he started blocking aggressively, or off of surging. He started blocking aggressively. I had a Dishonor in my hand already at that point, so I didn't need a Katsu for it, and I dishonored him. And then before I dishonored my Lynx to tenacity him, brought him down to 10, and he was like in pretty bad shape. He was already like kind of like sad, or like just like, wow, I got dishonored, like, you know.
Yep.
So yeah, that ended swiftly after that. And then after that, I played Kano. I played Majin Bay, and that was a really scary matchup.
Yeah, we some people have heard about it in his story time.
Yeah, in his story time. Yeah, I presented AB2 to AB, Flippers and Lantern, and I think both of us, we had like shaky starts. Like for me, like I had a blue and a three reds in my hand. He elected to go first. He got like 2 damage in. I pitched my 3 reds or something like that, or a yellow and 2 reds. And after that, I just drew a clunker of a hand. I drew like a blue whelming, a blue card, and like 2 bonds. And I was like, ugh. So like we were both kind of stumbling a bit. At some point, he lessened for Wall of Fire, put it into his arsenal. So I knew the Wall of Fire was there. And then the next lesson, he got Spindle. He played Spindle, and I'm like, I can't block. I don't have a blue, and I need the blue to pay for my turn. So I took it. He saw like 4 blues, or like 3 blues, a tome, and a red, and he kept a card in hand. So he drew 3 blues to have a 4 blue hand, and then kept tome on the top. He bombed the red, so he would assume that he would draw into 2 more reds, 2 blues after that tome. He didn't, and then like he was just like, his top decks were blues, and his hands were red. The common Kano thing that happens. And at some point I had like an Art of War off of surging, and he was like, do I pop off? I kept 2 cards in my hand, and he's like, do I pop off here? And he thought about it for like 10 minutes, decided against it, and then I kind of dealt him a good amount of damage, brought him down like 10-ish, and then I had like 2 consecutive surging turns afterwards, and then I got him down to 3 or to 1. And when you get the Kano player down to 1 and he has no like turn and he passes back, you're in good shape. And at that moment in time, my hand was 3 reds. It was naming like Descendant, Red Bonds, Red E-Strike, and Migenshi was surging in my arsenal. And I was like, I'm just gonna like bait him. I pitched E-Strike for Descendant. I had breaking scales at the moment, so I kind of forced him to pop off. He had like a 5-card hand because he had like Tome on the top, and he banished like a gaze. But after he did his analysis of how much research he can pay into like Wildfire to like play out his 2 blue spells from like banished, he couldn't buff it, so I just blocked 2 with my Migenshi, and then I was like at 20ish life, and then he just got me down to 10, and then I just like breaking scales. But even before I was gonna breaking scales, he just like gave me the fist bump. Yeah, so it's a bit scary.
So he just didn't find blazing.
Yeah, and then like and then in the story time he's like, yeah, and after that, like I saw Tome, Aether Flare, Wildfire, like all the power cards that he wanted to banish off the top. He was like a few cards shy.
So wait, if his second lessons was for Spindle, why not just get
that was like his
there?
second turn? Yeah, I was like, oh, like, are you gonna get another lesson?
Oh,
so
I guess it was too soon, right, to go for
blazing? Like I was like at 35ish or something, so like maybe.
Okay, I see that.
And I have baby too, so he's like, let me see, just Spindle.
Yes,
make
Spindle
him give
makes
me cards.
sense. Big attack.
Let me see some cards. Yeah,
and on average, he'll eventually dig towards the blazing, but it.
Yeah, that was kind of like the impression I got, and so, and then after like his ops weren't that effective, or like after he would like, bottom the red, he would see more reds when he didn't want to see them. So just kind of like a clunk fest. I was like, my first 2 hands were like clunky, and then after that, like I was just Hard Cross Shop surging, pop off a little bit, and then Pitch Blue surging, pop off a little bit, Art of War surging. I got him down to like 10ish, and then and then like to proceed.
You drew surgings. He didn't find blazing. That's basically how it went.
Yeah.
And then what was your finals matchup?
Finals was the KO I played in round 1.
He made it all the way to the finals from an 0-1 start.
Austin.
He submarined. He submarined.
Yeah. So before even the finals even started, top 4 got like boxes of heavy hitters. So I was like, oh, that's cool. Like, and I asked the judge, like, hey, like, what's the prize for? Do we get 2 boxes or 1 box, or what's the deal? And he's like, oh, just 1 box. So me and Austin talked a bit afterwards, like, hey, like, do you want to do like winner gets gold foil, loser gets 2 boxes instead of just 1 and 1? And he was fine with it. So we did that. Austin was like, yeah, like I think Katsu's unfavored for KO, and I'm like, I don't know. KO just hits the nuts, and I just lose. So like we're both like on that like Dromai Bravo opposite,
on the opposite
unfavored spectrum.
Yeah.
So, but
it's okay. I know KO players that think it's favored for them, so don't worry.
Yeah, if you're like disciplined with blocking and it's especially with like holding back on the fleshbag use, it's pretty in your favor. But yeah, sometimes you just have those huge turns where you cast Bones, Arsenal Blood Rush, and then you just pop off, and then there's not much anyone can really do about that. But yeah, like this was the same game as like the first game. I had opportune flick flax. I CNC'd just to like give pressure or just like disrupt his arsenal a little bit. At some point, I had like my hand was surging, 2 red flushers and a descendant, and no arsenal. And I'm like, okay, I need to like bait the fleshbag. So I like hard cross trap surging. He blocked 3 in fleshbag. He ended up intimidating my descendant, and I was like, I don't want to see that. But in hindsight, it was probably better that it happened that way, because I just like Kadachi'd with pitching red fluster and then fluster fist for red, Arsenal Descendant. And then after that, I drew Art of War, Dishonor, Bonds, and something else. and I was just able to pop off afterwards. And on that combo turn, I kind of messed up. I messed up pretty badly, actually. Like I Descendant Art of Ward. With my Lynx, I got Dishonor for some reason because I was like, oh, I'll be cheeky and double Dishonor him instead of getting like blue bonds. And then my Katsu was the bonds, but I didn't have a whelming. Yeah, it was meh. So I
It was the
basically
last
was like a
round. It was the
Dishonor.
last round. It was a
Yeah,
long
it was
day.
like Descendants, bonds, Dishonor, Fluster Dishonor for 3 instead of like having a double bonds loop turn. Because I was just like, I don't know what I was doing, like thinking, and like right after like I declared everything, I was like, oh shit. So like, but at that moment in time, I brought him down to like 8, and in that hand that I drew, I also had a flick flack, and I just arsenaled the flick flack, and then at that moment in time, he like the flick flack was like pretty. I got. I just like blocked 3 flick flack from arsenal, and then I just threatened lethal twice. And then at some point he had to like block out with Reckless, and then I killed him afterwards. Yeah, so it really depends. It was a good game. He kind of low rolled a little bit. I high rolled a bit more, or like I had 2 consecutive pop off turns. Yeah, I think that's kind of like what it takes for KO to beat KO, I guess.
You mean Katsu to beat KO?
Yeah, exactly. Sorry.
No, you're good. But yeah, repping one of the OG WTR heroes, just like me.
Yeah.
And you're also a Kano player, so you probably are pretty comfortable with the matchup against Majin Bay.
Yeah, there was turns where like he was throwing spindles. I'm like, I can't afford to block this. I have to hit him back.
Yeah,
like knowing that fine line of when to block, when to not block.
I think that's probably the hardest thing. Like even myself, like or we've been playing for like a good while now, but knowing like it's a very fine line of can or should I AB this or not. Like even
there are times where you don't want to respect him and just like pummel his face in, and then there's times where like, okay, he might do something here. He might do something sneaky. I'm gonna hold back just a little bit.
Yeah.
It's a weird line to cross.
I think in general in the beginning you can just like
beginning you just go unga bunga a bit. Yeah.
If you have an extra
card,
they block
the card early. Yeah. If you have a card, if they block a card early, they're not gonna pop off.
Right when you're both in that lethal-ish range, you're just like, man, every single resource counts.
Yeah, that's what you're like, kind of like, walking around a really silent house. You just don't want anything to creak.
Yep.
Just try to like navigate it super cleanly. Yeah. So no, Katsu's been fun. The tenacity definitely helps. He definitely adds another layer of like complexity / the pop off turns just feel a bit more just better because innately people want to block or deny surging gust waves. So that tenacity is just like really nice to have.
Yeah, I think myself included, I was really like, oh, this is a great Phi card because he runs Lynx, whereas Katsu usually runs Mask of Momentum. But with tenacity, it just seems like Lynx is just the better card in both. But yeah, I've always been a fan of Lynx ever since Phi came out. And nice to see it pulling its weight very well in Katsu, it seems.
Yeah.
I think last thing maybe I could touch on is, what would you say are your 5 worst matchups? Let's just do that. Because good matchups, you can say, oh, this is 50-50, that's 50-50. What are the 5 heroes you do not want to play against?
A good Levia is really scary. Just the fridge, flesh bag, like above rate cards, endless ma. When she's going, and it's hard to get around, especially with like Grasp of Darkness. I think Grasp of Darkness is kind of getting phased out from Apex, but I'm a bit scared to play against a good Levia. That's one. KO. Well, we've talked enough about KO. Victor. Bravo. I've gotten the hang of Bravo where I can make it work, but Bravo is still like when he high rolls, and there's not much you can do. I would say so that's 1, 2, 3,
4. The Brutes, the Guardians, maybe Azalea.
Yeah, Azalea, yeah. I think Lynx has made it a bit better for me, or has made it more comfortable for me.
Yeah, because even
Just
if
like
like
the
if
one
there's
off turn they
the
have,
one off
I
turn.
can just pop off. Yeah.
Hmm.
Dio has been pretty scary, but it's not as consistent. Oh, I guess the last one is Azuri probably. Azuri is really tough, but I think Lynx helps. Tenacity helps,
Yeah.
but when they get like disruption rolling, and it's kind of hard to kind of get back in there. But that's a tough matchup. But I find the Zuri matchups fun. It's just like I have to be on my toes a lot, and I have to be ready to pounce whenever they have a meh turn.
Pounce, you say?
Yeah. No, I actually did not have to do that.
No, you
But
totally did
yeah,
that on purpose. No kidding. It's funny
yeah.
because you say you're scared of the brutes and the guardians, and arguably those will be top 3 classes in representation. But I mean,
Yeah.
you're worried playing
No,
into
but
them,
like
but it's not like unwinnable, right?
no. Like I have my strategy. I know what to play towards. Um, and sometimes you got to be like super pesky. You have to like be a bit more creative slash you just have to go for it with Katsu sometimes, or you just have to be a bit sneaky about am I ROR here, am I gonna Katsu here, or am I gonna reorder, like am I gonna 100 wins and then he takes it and then I surging strike with the bonds line, or so it's a bit, you have to be a bit more you can't be as telegraphed as what you always want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why I like it. He's fun. You never know what's gonna happen. You might have an ancestral out of nowhere. Things like that.
Yep. And there's a
Yeah.
lot of very, very long combat chains you can make with Ninja.
Yeah.
It's funny
It's really fun. Yeah.
because
The bond sleep is just so good.
back then Ninja was just like, oh, Kadachi something, or surging Kadachi, or whelming,
Yeah.
three cards. But now Ninja's combat chains hit like 10 wide out of nowhere, for
Yeah.
both. But so if
Yeah.
that's your jam, you should play Ninja.
Yeah. Just yeah, it takes some reps. I think Lynx is just like harder. It took me a while to adjust to Lynx, but it once you get there, it's just like super satisfying. Like the crazy turns that come out of nowhere. And like it feels like the opponent can never block correctly sometimes. Whereas like you dishonor, and if they don't block your dishonor, and I tenacity you for like 6. But
Mm-hmm.
then if you block dishonor, then tenacity for 8. Yeah, I think it's a fun deck.
Oh,
Very
I
fun
also
deck.
just noticed you're not on Tunic either
Yeah, no Tunic.
for the
I
longer
recently only
matchups.
had Tunic for like Bravo.
No
Yeah, I
Tunic.
was on that Tao Tao. Tao Tao was like, oh, like if they go first and they dominate Spinal, you can just block Breeze, Breaking Skills, Tunic, and then keep momentum. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. So for a while, that was what I was running. But at some point, I was like, I only run Tunic into Bravo. Um, so I think it's fine that I just drop it. Yeah, I think the cards I had to fit in were like the 2 Tenazies and 2 Ancestrals Harmonies. I think the chopping blocks are the 2 Snatches, 1 Sync, and then 1 Tunic.
Makes
Yeah,
sense.
those are the cards I cut to make those fit in.
Yeah, I mean, Lynx is
So
giving you a 6-card hand. Heart and Cross
yeah, I've
Strap,
been
you potentially don't even need a
yeah
pitch for surging. It's like a
yeah
pretend 7-card hand,
yeah. It's pretty strong. And then I was on links like with Islander because double dishonor to like get them to win that matchup was important. And then I even played Lynx for like Azuri before Lynx Katsu. Lynx was like the main boarded headpiece. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. But yeah, it's gonna make your brain like pump a bit just like from thinking about the lines. Like, oh, do I get this and
Yeah.
this? Yeah. So it's like you gotta fill your graveyard and then just think about the best options
Mm-hmm.
and then just go from there. Double, triple bonds, or bonds to Megenshi to Lord of Wind for 7. Yeah. So there's a lot of lines. It's very improvisational. That's what I like
Yeah.
about it. It's never like, yeah, like I even messaged you guys like new lines that I discovered or that I did for the first time out of nowhere.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, this is cool. And I'm like, yeah.
You just give you a
So
little
there's never
thumbs
a
up,
dull
like
moment.
very cool.
Yeah, yeah. Like
Yeah,
you see me nerding out
dude,
sometimes.
because even when I played Katsu for a little bit and I made the fun
But
like
yeah, the Wetsu
torn of
list,
the Wetsu list, it was like my whole deck is centered
the
around
budget links
one
list.
yes, the budget links list. And my
Yeah,
whole deck is centered
yeah.
around one combo, but at every point in the game, I am constantly thinking like, okay, but what if I do like a slightly worse combo here? What does that? What could I do? How much are they
Yeah.
pressuring me? I would literally just sit there in the tank.
Yeah. Yeah, and then Breeze Rider Boots is just like so insane. I love that card so much.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
so what makes it
good thing you
fun?
got your cold foil, right?
Yeah, I'm waiting for the gold foil. I want someone to open it, please. Uh,
Gold
yeah,
foil.
no,
Oh yeah,
crazy
because Breaking
cards.
Skills came out. Lynx is out. I don't know if Cross
Cross
Strap
Trap is
is. Oh,
out.
Cross Strap's
Cross
out.
Trap is out.
Dang, you
Yeah,
could go full gold. Well, no, Kodachis aren't out yet, huh?
yeah. They haven't made
But you could
Kodachis.
go full gold armor Katsu. That's pretty dope. That's
That's
pretty dope.
pretty sexy. Yeah, no, the list is super fun. There are some clunker hands, but if you learn how to like keep starters in your arsenal and just having good setup, those clunky hands will be less clunky. And at some point, your opponent's gonna be blocking a lot, and then you have more free reign to do what you want to do. And then when they miss block or they just don't block enough, you just punish them, and it's a lot of fun.
Well, nice. So that should be just about everything we can cover. Just under 1 hour. Thanks for coming on, Carlos, and giving
Yeah,
me and the
thanks
viewers
for
your
having me.
time. To cap off the video, how about let's have you ask the viewers a question? Any
I
question?
asked the viewers a
Yeah, you
question.
can ask
Yeah,
the
you
viewers a
put me on
question.
the
I'm
spot.
putting you on the spot only because
Oh
I don't have a
shoot.
question. I don't have a question lined up.
Hell, question. Okay, I have no idea, man. Do you think Dromai is gonna make a comeback in the metagame? That's a. I feel like she could. I mean, Kasai's a good matchup. Victor's a good matchup.
That's
Guardian's, I don't know. I have no idea. Yeah. Dromai, I'm
maybe
still like
big maybe.
Dromai. Like, how is KO doing to Dromai? You know. More importantly, actually, is Prism going to be more relevant going forward? Prism has
Is Prism
been,
a real deck?
yeah, is she a real deck? I don't know.
Are
Oliver's
Dromai and Prism real?
working hard. The
I don't know if he's
new
working
list.
hard. He just loves Prism.
I love Tome too, and he loves Tome, and I'm like, yes, we're
Mhm.
like OG Prisms. The before the blue auras, we were like, Tome, Vestige of Soul, beautiful thing.
And now more people are on Tome, as they should be.
Yeah,
Card is so
as they
good.
should be. The world is right again.
All right. Yep.
Yeah.
But that should be everything. Thanks everyone for watching. And yeah. See you guys
Thank you,
next
everyone.
time. Goodbye.